I never thought I'd be that guy, the one whose life unraveled in an instant. But there I was, recovering from a nasty car accident, thinking life couldn't get worse. My wife, Jessica, was supposed to be my rock, my partner in this healing process. We had been married for 5 years, and for the most part, things had been good. Sure, we had our little spats, but what couple does? We shared a decent life together. I was an elementary school teacher, and Jessica worked from home as a freelance graphic designer. It was a comfortable existence, filled with the usual ups and downs. But something had been off. I noticed the little things. Jessica was always on her phone, whispering and looking over her shoulder as if she was hiding something. She was less affectionate, too. I brushed it off as stress from my accident, but I should have trusted my instincts. My gut was screaming at me, and I ignored it, thinking I was just being paranoid. It all came to a head one evening while I was still in recovery. I was sitting on the couch, painkillers dulling the ache in my ribs, when I heard a familiar voice on our home answering machine. It was the emergency room doctor who treated me after my accident, Dr. Matthew Collins. I had been in and out of consciousness, but I remembered his deep, soothing voice as he explained my injuries to Jessica. Hearing him now, laughing and chatting with her, made my stomach drop. Why was his voice on my answering machine, and why was she saving messages from him? I felt a wave of nausea wash over me, and I knew I had to dig deeper. As I limped over to the machine, I pressed play. There it was, crystal clear. "Hey Jess, it's Matt. Just wanted to check in on you and see how you're doing. Let me know if you need anything. I'm here for you." The message sounded innocent enough, but in that moment I could feel betrayal creeping in like a dark fog. My mind raced, and I replayed the message over and over, trying to convince myself that I was just being ridiculous. But I was. The little signs suddenly clicked into place. The late nights at work, the sudden need for privacy, and the way she had changed in the past few months. I felt like a fool. I didn't want to believe it, but all the pieces were there, painting a picture I didn't want to see. A few days passed, and the tension in our home became unbearable. I couldn't look at her without feeling a mix of anger and heartache. I needed to confront her, but I dreaded the confrontation. I thought about what I would say and how she would react. Would she deny it? Would she lash out? I had no idea, but I knew I had to say something. Finally, that moment came. We were in the kitchen, and the silence hung thick in the air like a storm cloud. I turned to her, my heart racing. "Jess, we need to talk," I said, my voice shaking. She looked at me, her expression shifting from surprise to annoyance. "Can it wait? I'm busy." "No, it can't." I heard the message on the machine. "From Dr. Collins," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. The words felt heavy, laden with accusation. Her face paled. "What are you talking about?" "That's ridiculous. He was just being nice. You know how doctors can be," she replied, her tone defensive. "Nice?" It didn't sound like a professional check-in to me. I shot back, feeling the anger bubble over. The conversation escalated quickly, with her throwing out excuses and being dismissive. She claimed I was being paranoid, that I was imagining things because of the pain medication. Every lie dripped off her lips like honey, but felt as bitter as poison. I wanted to scream, to shake her and make her see the truth, but I was too heartbroken. This was the woman I had loved and trusted, and she was standing there, lying to my face. I could feel my world crumbling around me as I processed her words. I was angry, devastated, and confused all at once. How could she do this to me? My mind was racing as I replayed everything, the laughter, the late nights, the little lies. It all made sense now. I wasn't sure how to gather my thoughts. My heart was heavy, and the air in the kitchen felt suffocating. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm within me. This wasn't over. I was not going to let her walk away from this easily. I walked away, feeling the need to collect myself. My whole life was being turned upside down, and I needed to figure out what to do next. But one thing was clear. I wasn't about to let this slide. I was going to get my revenge, and it was going to hurt her just as much as she had hurt me. After the confrontation, I felt like I was suspended in a surreal state. The air in our home was suffocating, and every corner felt like it echoed with betrayal. I began to question everything: our history, our love, the life we built together. I felt lost, like a ship adrift at sea without a compass. Jessica tried to play the victim, convincing me I was overreacting. "You're not thinking straight," she said, her eyes darting away from mine. I watched her, noticing how she twisted her hair, a sure sign of her nervousness. But this wasn't about her discomfort. It was about my heart, my trust, shattered into a million pieces. The first few days after our argument were the hardest. I started noticing more strange behavior from her, more phone calls that she took in another room, late-night texts she insisted were just work-related. It only fueled my suspicions. I needed proof, something concrete that I could hold onto, a reason to believe that I wasn't just imagining things. I decided to dig deeper. I knew I had to be careful, as Jessica was often quick-witted and could sniff out deceit if she wanted to. But I had to know the truth, and I wasn't going to let her lie to me anymore. So I began to snoop through her phone when she left it unattended. One evening, while she was in the shower, I seized my chance. I grabbed her phone and quickly unlocked it. My heart raced as I scrolled through her messages. There were a few innocuous texts from friends, but then I stumbled upon a thread with Dr. Collins. My hands trembled as I read the messages back and forth. They were flirty, too flirty for a doctor and his patient's wife. "I can't stop thinking about you, Jess. You have no idea how much I want you," one message read. My gut twisted, a mix of nausea and anger bubbling up inside me. I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. It confirmed everything I had feared. When she emerged from the shower, I acted nonchalant, hiding the phone and trying to mask my fury. I couldn't just confront her again, I needed a plan. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction of seeing me hurt. Instead, I decided to play it cool, to gather evidence and plot my next move. Every day was a mental battle. I was forced to keep up appearances, to act like everything was fine, while inside I was a raging storm. Hours turned into days, and I watched her with scrutinizing eyes. The way she laughed a little too hard at her phone, the coy smile she sent in its direction, all of it made my blood boil. But alongside my anger, there was a part of me that felt utterly broken, like I was living in a shadow of my former self. The pain of betrayal was seeping into every aspect of my life. I couldn't focus on work. I found myself zoning out during lessons, my students' voices blending into a dull hum. I didn't want to feel this way. I wanted to confront her, but I needed a strategy first. It was difficult to keep my emotions in check, but I had to be smart. If I revealed what I knew too soon, she might spin some narrative that made me the villain. I started to think about how to make her feel the same anguish I did. It wasn't fair to me, and she had to face the consequences of her actions. That weekend, Jessica suggested we go out for dinner to celebrate my recovery. She tried to act normal, but I could see the anxiety in her eyes as she nervously picked at her food. Our conversation felt forced, and I could tell she was wondering how much I knew. But I played along, feigning interest in her stories about work and friends, all while my mind was racing with thoughts of how I could expose her betrayal. I finally settled on a plan. I would invite Dr. Collins to meet us for drinks, under the guise of thanking him for his care during my recovery. Jessica would have no choice but to confront her lies when face to face with the man she had betrayed me with. I imagined the look on her face when she realized I was onto her. It would be a moment of clarity, a moment where the truth would be laid bare in front of everyone. I picked up my phone and sent a message to Dr. Collins, suggesting we grab a drink one Friday night. I felt a rush of adrenaline. I was in control now. I could almost taste the sweet revenge. As I waited for his reply, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe I could turn this around and regain some power in this twisted game. The following days dragged on, but I held on to my newfound resolve. I was determined to confront Jessica in the most public way possible, to make sure she felt the weight of her actions. I wanted her to know that I was not the man to be trifled with. I was going to get the closure I needed, and perhaps even a semblance of justice for the betrayal I'd suffered. I planned every detail meticulously, and I could barely contain my excitement. Finally, Friday arrived, and I felt like a predator stalking its prey, ready to pounce. The anticipation was exhilarating. I had no idea how Jessica would react, but I was ready for whatever came next. The day of the confrontation felt like a whirlwind. I spent the entire afternoon preparing for what was going to be a pivotal moment, one that could either break me or empower me. I dressed carefully, Nothing too fancy, but enough to show that I meant business. A part of me felt guilty, like I was setting a trap to catch the woman I once loved, but the other part was eager for the truth to come out. I had to remind myself that her actions had led us here, not me. When I arrived at the bar where we had agreed to meet, I found a quiet corner table. The place was dimly lit, creating an intimate atmosphere that felt ironic given the situation. I ordered a drink, my nerves buzzing as I waited for Dr. Collins to arrive. I knew Jessica would be surprised, maybe even panicked, when she realized who would be joining us. But that was the whole point. I wanted her to feel the weight of her deceit. A few moments later, Dr. Collins walked in and I waved him over. He was charming and charismatic, a man who naturally drew attention. As we exchanged pleasantries, I sensed a hint of confusion in his eyes. He probably didn't know the full scope of why we were meeting. I decided to keep it light for now, not wanting to throw him under the bus just yet. "Hey, thanks for coming out," I said, forcing a smile. "I just wanted to thank you for everything you did for me in the hospital. It meant a lot to me and Jessica." "Of course, happy to help," he replied, his demeanor friendly but cautious. We exchanged a few more pleasantries, and I could feel the tension building in my chest. I was waiting for the moment when Jessica would walk through that door and everything would change. When she finally arrived, I could see the surprise wash over her face the moment she spotted me sitting there with Dr. Collins. The color drained from her cheeks, and her eyes darted back and forth between us, panic flashing in her expression. She plastered a smile onto her face, but I could see right through it. "Hey, what's going on?" she asked, her voice a little too high-pitched, a bit too forced. I leaned back in my chair, crossing my arms as I watched her squirm. "Just having a drink with Matt. Thought it would be nice to finally all hang out together. After all, he really helped me out during my recovery." "Oh," she said, her smile faltering. "That's nice." She shifted her weight from one foot to the other, clearly uncomfortable. I could feel the tension in the air. The dynamic had shifted. I could almost hear the gears turning in her mind as she processed the situation. She had to know this wasn't just a casual meetup. "Why don't you join us?" I said, gesturing to the empty seat next to me. Jessica hesitated, her eyes flickering toward Dr. Collins, who was looking at her expectantly. "Come on, Jess, we're just catching up." Slowly, she sank into the chair, her body language screaming unease. I wanted to push her to make her uncomfortable, but I maintained my composure. I was in control now. The conversation flowed awkwardly at first. We talked about work, sports, and the usual small talk, but the undercurrent of tension was palpable. I took a sip of my drink and glanced at Jessica, who was fidgeting. She was acutely aware that the two of us were both aware of the elephant in the room. "Jess, do you want to tell Matt about that little check-in you had after I got out of the hospital?" I asked, my voice dripping with curiosity. Her eyes widened, and I could see her heart race as she caught on to where this was heading. What do you mean?" she stammered, forcing a laugh that sounded strained. "Come on, I think we should all be honest here," I pressed, leaning in closer. "You know, because I heard your little conversation on the answering machine and then found some texts. It's probably best if we just lay it all out there." I watched as her expression morphed from confusion to horror. Her mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. Dr. Collins shifted uncomfortably, glancing between us, clearly unsure how to react. "Jess, I didn't come here to make a scene. I just want to understand," I said, keeping my tone steady, though I felt the anger bubbling beneath the surface. She finally gathered herself, her defenses kicking in. "You're being ridiculous." "It was nothing, just friendly." "Friendly, really?" I interrupted, my patience wearing thin, because it sounded a hell of a lot more than just friendly to me. "Matt, you have to believe me," she insisted, turning to the doctor, pleading with her eyes. "You know it was just a professional check-in." I could see Dr. Collins' discomfort grow as he started to connect the dots. "Jess, I didn't mean to overstep any boundaries. I thought I was just being supportive," he said, trying to diffuse the situation. "Supportive?" I scoffed, frustration boiling over. "Telling my wife you can't stop thinking about her. How is that supportive?" Jessica went silent, the color draining from her face as the reality of the situation hit her. I wasn't about to let her worm her way out of this one. She might have played the innocent wife for too long, but the truth was out in the open now. Why don't we let Matt speak for himself? I said, my voice low and steady. Do you want to explain your side, Matt? Dr. Collins seemed to hesitate, his eyes darting back to Jessica. I didn't mean to cause any trouble. It was just a conversation between friends. I didn't know that there were any boundaries I was crossing. Jessica's facade was crumbling. I was just being nice, she exclaimed, her voice rising in desperation. You have to believe me, it wasn't anything, I swear. But it was too late. The lies were thrown into the light and the truth was starting to unravel. I could see her panic, the realization that she was losing control of the narrative. I leaned back, letting the moment stretch out, letting the weight of her betrayal sink in. Jess, if you were being honest with me, we wouldn't be having this conversation, I said, my heart pounding in my chest. You've been lying to me and now it's time to face the consequences. The tension was suffocating. I had exposed her and now it was time for her to confront her actions. The truth was out and I was ready to watch her squirm. I had taken back my power and there was no turning back now. The tension at the table was palpable, a thick fog of unspoken words and unacknowledged betrayal hanging in the air. Jessica's composure was slipping away, her practiced facade crumbling with every passing second. I watched as she desperately searched for some way to regain control of the narrative, but the truth was already in motion and there was no stopping it now. Her face flushed a deep shade of red and I could see her mind racing. You have to understand, she started, her voice trembling slightly. It was all just a misunderstanding. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. A misunderstanding, I echoed incredulously. You don't send flirty texts to someone you barely know, Jess. You don't tell a guy you can't stop thinking about him if it's just friendly. That's not how this works. Dr. Collins shifted uncomfortably in his seat, clearly regretting the invitation he had accepted. Listen, Jess, I didn't know you were married. I swear I thought it was just harmless flirting, he said, trying to defuse the situation. I appreciated his attempt, but it only added fuel to the fire of my anger. That's the problem, isn't it? I turned my gaze back to Jessica. You didn't tell him. You never told him. You hid this from me, and now you're trying to make it sound like I'm the paranoid one. This isn't a misunderstanding. This is you choosing to betray me. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears, and I could practically see her heart racing as she tried to come up with a plausible excuse. I'm sorry, I really am. I just felt so alone and you were so out of it after the accident. I thought I could find someone to talk to, someone who understood, but it was stupid. I didn't mean to hurt you. The desperation in her voice almost made me feel bad for her, but then I remembered the texts I had read, the way her laughter sounded when she was on the phone with him. There was an intimacy there that I would never have imagined she could share with another man. You didn't just talk, Jess. You crossed a line. You let him touch you in ways that you should have reserved for me. The room felt charged with emotion, and for a moment, silence filled the space between us. Dr. Collins looked between us, clearly wanting to extricate himself from the confrontation. I think I should leave, he said cautiously, rising from his chair. No, you're involved, I replied sharply, my voice low but steady. You need to hear this too. You can't just walk away from the mess you both made. Jessica shot me a pleading look, but I was done playing nice. She had pushed me to this point and I wanted her to see the full scope of her betrayal. You have no idea how much I've loved you, I continued, my voice thick with emotion. And you've thrown it all away for what? A fleeting thrill, a temporary escape. Please, she begged, her voice cracking. I know I messed up, I just felt so overwhelmed, I didn't mean for it to go this far. Then why did you keep it going? I asked, leaning forward. Why didn't you stop when you realized it was crossing a line? You had plenty of opportunities. Because it felt good to be wanted. She finally shouted, her own anger flaring up. I felt invisible while you were dealing with your recovery. I didn't mean for it to happen, but it did. I'm not a perfect person and I made a mistake. So what? I'm just supposed to forgive you because you felt neglected. I countered, my own anger rising. This isn't about excuses, it's about the trust you shattered. You took that trust and stomped on it. You made a choice. Listen, I'm sorry, okay? She pleaded, her voice now a desperate whisper. I never wanted to hurt you. I love you. Those words were like a sharp knife to my heart. Love. How can you say you love me after what you've done? I shook my head, disbelief flooding through me. You say you love me, but you've betrayed me in the worst way possible. Jessica fell silent, tears streaming down her face. It was painful to look at her, and yet I couldn't look away. Seeing her vulnerable made my heart ache, but there was no going back. I had to protect myself now. Dr. Collins stood awkwardly next to the table, unsure what to do. "I think maybe this isn't the right time for me to be here," he said slowly. "I didn't mean to put you both in this position." "No," Jessica interjected, her voice rising again, desperation creeping in. "You don't get to leave, you're part of this, you need to take responsibility too." "Jess, don't drag him into this," I said firmly. "He's not the one who made vows to me. You did. This is between us, and you're the one who needs to explain yourself." With that, I focused back on her, ready to confront the full scope of her betrayal. "I want to know if you think this can be repaired. Or do you want to keep pretending this never happened? Because I can't do that, I deserve better." She looked shattered, the weight of her choices crashing down upon her. "I don't know," she finally admitted, her voice breaking. "I just don't know what to do. I didn't mean for any of this to happen." I took a deep breath, my mind racing through the possibilities of our future. Did I want to work through this? Part of me wanted to walk away and never look back, but I was still clinging to the memories of our life together. "It's going to take a lot more than apologies to fix this," I said, my heart pounding in my chest. "I need time to think about what I really want. Please," she begged, her voice trembling. "Don't throw everything away. Let's talk about this. I'll do anything to make it right." I shook my head, feeling the weight of indecision bearing down. "You've already made your choice, and it wasn't me. You need to understand how deeply this hurt me. I need to think about what I want going forward. Right now, I don't know if that includes you." With that, I stood up from the table, leaving the air thick with unresolved tension. I walked away, the sound of Jessica's cries echoing in my ears. I didn't look back, knowing that the road ahead was going to be painful no matter what I chose. But in that moment, all I knew was that I had to find my own way through this mess, even if it meant tearing apart the very foundation of what I thought we had built together. Walking away from that confrontation felt surreal, like I was in a dream I couldn't wake up from. I stepped outside the bar, the cool night air hitting my face like a splash of cold water. My heart was racing, and my mind was a chaotic storm of emotions. I felt a mix of anger, betrayal, and confusion swirling around inside me. I had just laid bare the truth, and while it felt liberating, it also felt like I was on the edge of a cliff, looking down into an abyss. I needed to process everything that had happened, but how could I? I found my car and sat inside for a moment, gripping the steering wheel tightly. The familiar surroundings of the parking lot, the hum of passing cars, felt foreign to me. I replayed the night's events in my mind over and over like a broken record. Jessica's face, her tears, the excuses, all of it haunted me. I was furious. I had trusted her with everything, and she had thrown it away for a fleeting thrill. I thought about the life we had built together, the dreams we had shared, and how it all felt so fragile now. It was hard to reconcile the woman I loved with the person who had betrayed me. I wanted to scream, to lash out, to make her feel the pain I was feeling, but I also knew that wasn't going to help anything. After sitting in silence for what felt like an eternity, I decided to drive aimlessly. I needed to clear my head. As I drove, I thought about what I wanted. I considered all the possibilities: reconciliation, separation, or perhaps just walking away for good. The truth was, I didn't know what I wanted right then. I was too hurt, too angry. Eventually, I ended up at a park not far from our home. I parked the car and got out, taking a deep breath of the cool night air. The park was deserted, illuminated only by the dim light of the moon filtering through the trees. I walked along the path, feeling the crunch of leaves under my feet. It was peaceful, but the quiet only amplified the chaos in my mind. I pulled out my phone, scrolling through my contacts until I found the name of my best friend, Mike. I needed someone to talk to, someone who would understand. I hit call and waited, my heart racing. When he answered, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. "Hey man, what's going on?" Mike said, his voice warm and familiar. "Can we meet? I really need to talk," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "Of course. I'll be there in 20, he said without hesitation. I hung up and paced the park, my thoughts racing. It wasn't just about Jessica anymore. It was about me, my future, and what I wanted out of life. I needed to figure out if I could forgive her or if it was time to cut my losses and move on. When Mike arrived, he found me sitting on a bench, staring into the distance. He walked over, concern etched on his face. "What happened?" he asked, sitting down beside me. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of everything tumble out as I recounted the night's events. I told him about the messages, the confrontation at the bar, and how Jessica had tried to explain her way out of it. I watched as Mike's expression shifted from shock to sympathy, and finally to anger. "Dude, I can't believe she would do that to you," he said, shaking his head. "You deserve so much better." "I just don't know what to do," I admitted, feeling the tears begin to well up in my eyes. Part of me wants to make this work, but the other part feels so betrayed. How do I even begin to trust her again? Mike leaned back, considering my words. "It's not an easy situation, that's for sure, but you have to prioritize yourself. What do you want? Can you see a future with her after this? Or is it better to let her go?" I sighed, feeling the weight of his question. I thought I wanted to build a life with her, but now, I don't know if I can get past this. The thought of her with someone else, I trailed off, unable to finish my sentence. "Listen, man," Mike said firmly, "you need to think about your happiness. If she can't respect you enough to stay loyal, is she really worth it? I know it's hard, but you deserve someone who will cherish you." His words rang true, cutting through the fog of confusion in my mind. I felt a flicker of clarity amidst the chaos. Maybe I didn't need to tolerate this. Maybe I could choose happiness, even if it meant letting go of a relationship I had poured so much into. "I just don't want to make a rash decision," I said, my voice shaky. "What if I regret it later?" "Then take your time, but don't let her manipulate you into staying out of guilt," he replied. "You're not responsible for her actions. You have to take care of yourself." We talked for a while longer, Mike offering me support and perspective. It felt good to vent, to let the emotions flow freely without fear of judgment. As we wrapped up our conversation, I felt a sense of relief. I didn't have all the answers, but I had taken the first step in evaluating what I wanted. That night, as I drove home, I resolved to talk to Jessica again. I needed to lay everything on the table, my feelings, my fears, and my needs. I wouldn't let this go unaddressed. Whether we could rebuild what had been broken or if it was time to part ways, I needed to know where we both stood. As I pulled into our driveway, I took a deep breath, bracing myself for the conversation ahead. The house was dark and quiet, a stark contrast to the chaos in my mind. I could hear the faint sound of Jessica moving inside, anxiety prickling the back of my neck. I didn't know how this would end, but I was ready to face the truth, no matter how painful it might be. Stepping inside the house felt like crossing a threshold into another world. The familiar smells of home wrapped around me, but they were tainted with a sense of betrayal. I found Jessica sitting on the couch, her expression a mix of worry and hope. She looked up as I walked in, and for a moment I felt a pang of the love I had for her, the memories of happier times flashing through my mind. But they were overshadowed by the reality of everything that had come to light. "Hey," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't know when you'd be back. I've been thinking." I nodded, my heart racing as I prepared to lay everything out. "We need to talk," I said, my tone serious. I did want to prolong this any longer. I needed clarity, and I owed it to myself and to her to be honest about what I was feeling. "Okay," she replied, her voice trembling slightly. "I'm listening." I took a deep breath, gathering my thoughts. "I don't even know where to start. I'm hurt, Jess. I feel betrayed, and I don't know how I can trust you again after everything that happened." Her eyes filled with tears, and I could see the pain etched on her face. "I know I messed up. I didn't mean for it to go that far. I never wanted to hurt you. I just felt so alone, and it was a moment of weakness." "Moments of weakness don't justify crossing lines," I countered, feeling the anger bubble up again. "You made a choice, Jess. You chose to confide in someone else instead of coming to me. You let it go on for too long, and now I'm left picking up the pieces." "I get that," she said, frustration seeping into her voice. "I wish I could take it back. I wish I could change what happened, but I can't. Can we just move forward?" "Move forward," I echoed, feeling the weight of her words crush me. "How can we move forward when I don't even know if I can trust you? Trust is everything in a relationship, and you shattered that." "Please, I love you," she pleaded, tears streaming down her face. I don't want to lose you. I'll do whatever it takes to make this right. Her desperation tugged at my heart, but I had to be firm. Love isn't enough to build a foundation when the trust is gone. I need time to think, Jess. I can't just pretend that everything is okay because you're sorry. It's not fair to throw everything away, she said, her voice rising in frustration. We've built a life together. We can fix this. You have to give me a chance. I don't know that I can, I replied, feeling the gravity of my words. This is a huge betrayal, and it's going to take more than just apologies and promises to fix this. I need to figure out what I truly want, and I can't do that while you're in my ear, telling me how. You'll change. The silence stretched between us like an unbridgeable chasm. Jessica looked down, her shoulders slumping in defeat. I could see the realization washing over her, the understanding that this was beyond simple forgiveness. It was about rebuilding something that had been irrevocably damaged. Are you saying you want to separate? She asked, her voice small. I don't know, I admitted, feeling the weight of uncertainty settle over me. But I can't be the only one trying to fix this. You need to show me that you understand the depth of what you did. It can't just be lip service, it needs to be genuine. I'll do anything, she said again, desperation seeping into her tone. Anything. I challenged, my heart aching. Then maybe you should take some time to reflect on what this means for you. I need space to figure out if I can forgive you and what our future looks like. Right now, I can't see a path forward together, not after everything. Her face fell as the reality of my words hit her. So that's it, she whispered. You're just going to walk away. I'm not walking away, I clarified. I'm stepping back to protect myself. This is about healing and figuring out if this relationship can be salvaged. I can't be in a situation where I'm constantly questioning your loyalty. I deserve to feel secure in my relationship. Jessica nodded slowly, tears still streaming down her face. I understand. I never meant to hurt you. I was foolish. I know you didn't mean to hurt me, but intentions don't matter when the damage is done, I said gently. I care about you, but I also need to care about myself. We both need time to think about what we truly want. With that, I turned away, walking to the door. I took one last look at the woman who had once been my partner, my confidant, and now felt like a stranger. The pain was unbearable, but I knew I had made the right choice. As I stepped outside, I felt the cool night air wash over me, bringing a sense of clarity. I didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, I felt a flicker of hope that I could find my way through this dark moment. I needed to focus on healing, to rediscover who I was outside of this relationship. Whether that meant rebuilding with Jessica or moving on, I would figure it out. I just had to take it one day at a time. With each step away from the house, I felt a weight lifting, a sense of freedom beginning to replace the hurt. No matter where this journey led me, I was determined to find my strength again. I would emerge from this ordeal, stronger and wiser, ready to embrace whatever life had in store for me next.